Let's have a quick recap last class what we discussed, then we can talk about today's session. What topic we discussed yesterday? We talked about Azure Backup, right? It's a 17/11/2024. So we started service called as Azure Backup and Restore. We understood the process and how to take a backup with the help of recovery service vault. This is a new service. We need to start taking backup. That process called as a recovery service vault, right? Inside this, we would be going to selecting for what kind of backup you're going to take. So we have tested yesterday for one of the backup called file server, file share backup, and we have successfully restored from backup, right? So I have asked you guys to test for the VM backup. Have you tried? Have you done anyone lab? Anyone done for that is yesterday's for the VM backup? No worries. So let's talk about today again for this. We just checked with the only taking a file share backup. Okay, though now we'll talk about the how to take a VM backup, right? When we talk about the VM backup, we need to have that is in one VM. We'll build in Azure and we'll have some data, right? So we'll create a VM. We'll copy some data to VM. Remember, default, before I going to start this, anyone has any question for the yesterday class? Good to go. Okay, so what we need to do when we're taking a backup, remember there is a few things to be noted here. We need to test for, we'll put some data to the VM, right? There's actually when you take a backup, right? When you take a once VM backup, while restoration, we can do some other way also. We can only restore specific data which we copied in a VM, or we need to restore entire VM also. Those two way we can do that. Okay. So when you taking a backup, remember by default we have that is in C drive, and there is a D drive inside VM, right? And this drive is a temporary drive, right? This backup it won't take during the backup. Remember, so when we take a backup, if you have a C and D, which is temporary drive, this will not be going to take a backup. Will not be taking backup. However, if you created any additional drive like F drive, right, other drive for the data drive, and when you take a VM backup, this will be going to consider. Okay.
So is it by
Yes.
default or we have to choose
Yes.
the drives?
No, it is a default, but
Okay.
you during taking a backup, it will ask you to do you need to exclude this backup, I mean this drive, and you can choose it, but default this drive will not going to take a backup by default. And you have a multiple drive in your VM, but you can choose I don't want this drive to take a backup. You can select it, that options will be there. This drive will take a backup. Getting my point? But by default, remember this will not going to take it. Since it's a temporary drive, there is no point to taking a backup with this. Is already notified to intimate to the do not keep any data into the drive. Even the VM stop, the data will not be back after you restart the machine, right? This we know that. Hence, when you're taking a backup VM, and even that D drive is by default is there, it won't take a backup. This one is. But you have created any additional drive, and you have put any data on the additional drive, during taking a backup, it will ask you to, you have additional drive, but do you want to exclude or do you want to consider? And if you just go to the next, it would be getting all the drives will be get backed up. This is a one note. Okay. So let's see, we'll build a one VM in a portal, and also enabling the backup. Enabling the backup of VM. You can do during deployment of backup. You can enable backup, enable VM backup during VM deployment. Also, after VM deployed, can be enabled backup. There you can see the backup option. Also, you can enable this backup by creating a recovery service vault. Another way, create recovery service vault, which we are going to following with this. And here you can select, so what kind of backup we are going to take, right? VM backup. So ultimately these two also is redirecting to the recovery service vault only. So again, it would ask you to create default. It is going to create a default recovery service vault, right? If you want to create, you can choose it here. And here also, after VM deployed, we have the backup options where is also be default recovery service vault, and you wanted to go with this default service recovery service vault, you can choose it, right? Or you wanted to create anything, it would have options to create a recovery service vault. Ultimately, the whatever you're going to take a backup in Azure, it should come to the recovery service vault only. So when you go to recovery service vault, you would be able to see that how many recovery service vault was created. Clear? Okay, let's create a VM first, then we can talk about the enabling this backup, and we'll also put some data, right? We'll also put some data, and then we can take a backup. Then while restoration, we will discuss what are the options are there. For VM restore, we can do that. Number one is file recover. Okay, and second one is you can take entire VM restore. We will be going to test for the first one is, which is file recovery. It means your data is going to delete it, and it would be going to, this process is different. Okay, this would be going to run the defaults. It will be going to download one file, and when the download, that is your all drive, it will be going to mount it and with have a secure password, and we'll see what would be the have options for the VM file, file recovery and VM restore both. We should know that all the method how we are going to use it. Good to go. Let's come back to the portal.azure.com. Nine zero one 90174. Okay. So in my recovery service vault, how many recovery service will we have that? Yesterday we have created one, it was default one. We have additional recovery service vault created because of the region, right? So let's create my one VM virtual machine. I don't have any virtual machine here. You can use for the same resource group. I'm going to creating VM1. Can select for the Central India. We don't need any availability zone. Standard. We'll take for the 2019 operating system and username. Okay. Disk. Keep as it is default. Networking keep default. And you see this under the management. We scroll down here. The first option, right? Enabling the backup, VM backup during VM deployment, right? And you wanted to enable here, you can also enable. The moment you checkbox enable, it would ask you to default recovery service vault is automatically going to create it. Or I don't want to take this, you want to create, you can take this also. The first option, I will not be going to enabling during deployment. And this is options you can create it, default recovery service vault, or we can create a new.
But Neil, right now you have 3 over there, so it will be there in the drop-down list.
That is also be your whatever existing you created, and that is also be there in that, which is existing, how to create it. So we will be creating new recovery service vault for VM recovery service vault. We will be going to creating a new recovery service vault, create a new recovery service vault, then we'll create for the VM backup instead existing one. Okay, I'm going to checkbox not enabling here. And also when you deploy the VM, with the VM only, you can able to take a backup. Again, is redirecting to the recovery service vault. Just process it is.
Normally in runtime environments, they keep different vaults for different type of, you can say, files.
Recovery
You can
service
say.
vault. Depends on
Yes.
what is happening, right? They will be all the backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
They will not be taking creating a recovery service. Depends on the resources. They'll be making for the specific a resource group, right? So we resource group created. What's happening here? You have the IT department, they are working their resources. Some HR department, they are working their resources. Okay. And they are working for some other department. So now whatever the resource you are going to use IT, there will be resource group created, right? And they would give any specific region. And now all the resources are belongs to IT resource group underscore IT, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now what's happening here? While taking a backup, they will be creating a recovery service vault. They'll be creating recovery service vault underscore IT. Now in this, I should know that is in okay. This is a backup for what? Whom? This IT department. So whatever you want to take a backup of all the data, VMs, it would be this resource would be backup here. And the same things, the resource group you created, RG underscore HR. And the resource you are going to created all the resources in this resource group. And you are going to take a backup of this. It will not be mix up. It is if it's mix up, we will get confused at whom we are taking a backup. So it would be having a separate recovery service vault under HR. So when you go to the recovery service vault option, you would be able to see there you have the multiple recovery service vault, right? When you go to the recovery service vault, you have multiple recovery service vault options. So after seeing the naming convention, you would be able to see, okay, these are all HR backup taken. These are all IT backup has been taken. I need to, if something happened for the IT related, I would easy to have options to choose. Okay, this is impacted. I would go to that. The two things, we need to follow the naming convention as well as the respective department. If you know the department,
Okay.
you can go with the location as well.
Means some specific naming convention should be
Exactly.
there to
Yes, yes.
identify the
Identify the,
backups.
easy to identify the design,
Hmm.
because if we, same as traditional method where we are going to use, right? Location wise, but when you ask for the active directory OU structure, active directory OU, you heard about organization
Yes,
unit.
yes, yes,
We are creating for the specific location OU, right? And there you have the design. Say for example, BLR is a Bangalore location. Under that we have IT department. Under we have that is in HR department, and we have that is in sales department. And we are not going to creating user anywhere, right? We will be creating for that IT. Here is a separate users and computers, and whatever you have file server, all we are going to put into that under the IT OU. Same things, HR, same whatever that is in HR, users are using whatever their laptop computers under the HR OUs. Same sales. Also, if you talk about some location based, something you have the CHN, other department or other office we are into the CHN. There also we have the IT, and then we are going to do this respective OU. Then the whatever users you going to create it should be like that, BLR underscore IT underscore 001 example, right? So after seeing a name itself, we will come to know this. The R belongs to Bangalore IT team. And if you see this one more here, BLR underscore HR underscore 001, right? And same things here also, CHN underscore IT underscore 001. So how we are creating operational method, this should be easy to understand our operations for the identifying. Same things you can also plan for backup by giving the proper naming convention, because this is the most important we have to have, because what's happening, common recovery service vault you given and you have taken the backup in that. And why restoration, if you do not know that right proper naming convention, it will be confused that which backup is you have taken, whom you have taken.
yes. Mhm.
You have to follow with this. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, this VM has been created now. You can just see after VM build also, the second option which we are talking about, after VM deployed also can enable the backup. Again, it's going to be options for recovery service vault. If you just scroll down here, you would be able to see this. So this backup. You click on the backup here, you see this automatically, you know, going to the recovery service vault. I have the existing one. Either you can create a new, select existing one, right? And in this, you see this, there is a policy subtype. You again, earlier it was not have had these options. Earlier it was only standard. Now enhanced features has been added. You can keep that multiple backups are there. In the same options, you would be able to see under the recovery service vault, which you're going to create newly, right? The second options, you can enable the backup VM with the same. So you can see some policies we can keep your retention policy, or how many date you want to keep the, and you can plan for the scheduled backup. Those can be able to do this under the policies you want to create. You can create a policy. Same options are available recovery service vault, right? So here you are making individual VM and doing that is recovery service vault. Ultimately, this is redirecting to the recovery service vault only. But when you go to the recovery service vault, it is a specifically you are mentioning whom we are going to take a backup, and what are the options we are going to selecting, where you have the recovery service vault options. And there you can follow the naming convention, and there you can follow that is in what type of backup you need to select. Here you are taking individual, right? Individual backup we can select. There's options we can see. That's what I was trying to explaining here. You have the multiple way to enabling the backup, right? So we have done the VM deployed here. Let's log in this VM, and I'll put some data in this VM. Copy this. can paste the public IP address. Backup. I was trying to explain for this point, which you have a drive, this one. So when you open this my VM, you would be able to see my C drive along with my temporary drive, correct? So if you enabling this backup, it will not going to take this drive. Okay. Let's take a 2-3 data here. I'm just keeping the data. You see this temporary drive? This is not going to take. If you have any additional drive apart from this, you can able to get the backup. And I'll create one folder here, data, and I'll put some data here for the testing purpose. Okay. Now, so there is a temporary drive. If you see the my C drive, I put my data in this is. Let's take a backup of this VM. Okay. What are the processes going to happen? Now come back here. Now for the backup, I would go to the recovery service vault. Go to the service recovery service vault. Okay. So create another recovery service vault here. The source group, you can keep the same one only. Recovery service vault is recovery service vault underscore VM. Okay, I'm just selecting for RSV underscore VM. It's not taking underscore.
I need to get
Recovery
you
service.
hyper.
Yeah. Recovery service vault VM. Underscore is not taking. Okay, let's give this. Central India. Because there is what you can just create it and create. Oh, it's taking by default geo redundant. It should not be this. Should I change this local? That's fine. Can we edit this later after creating the cursor's vault? Let's see. Let's wait for a few more seconds. Okay. Can I change this redundancy after create it? There is redundancy here. Where I can see this redundancy. So anyway, it is selected for the by default geo. Let's see, let it give this. Okay, so go to the backup. So where is your workload running? My workload is running in Azure. And what do you want to take a backup? What's your machine? You getting these two options? You see the storage application is to geo redundant. These options cannot be changed. See this? I was trying to find this one. Right? The storage application is set to geo redundant. These options cannot be changed later.
So if you click on that arrow, okay, will it give any option
It
here?
will go to the options here.
Yes, from here we can
Just click
change it.
on this. Just say. This option is not given to anywhere. It's given to here. In this location, this region, you have these three redundants, which is geo, and local. It's saying that these options cannot be changed after protecting items. The geo redundant storage provides a higher level data durability than local LRS and cost more. So review of the trade-off between lower cost and higher cost durabilities. That is the best, your scenario. That's what you need to select for. The depends on requirement for the geo. It is again, it is obviously for cost to be high. So just to make sure that is in when we are selecting for this redundancy. And whatever you have a promo value, some lesser amount, right? Do not select these are the options. It will be, uh, it will be adding for the more cost. Okay, I have changed to the, just refresh it. Let's come back here. Refresh and go back to the backup. Now it's changed to local redundant. Okay. Just I was, curious to know that this by mistake if I created different redundancy. So I was trying to find that options here, but luckily we got this options here and you can change it, right? Just you should be aware about this also. How do you sometime interview questions asked to can we change it? Yes, say confidently yes we can change it to this. We'll tell this options will be available and we can do that. All right, good to go. So where is our workload running? Azure, and what are you going to take a backup? Virtual machine which we already deployed here. Take a backup. Now you can select same options we have seen that is in when we enabling the backup of the VM, right? In that options. So you earlier it was only standard. Now they have added an enhanced, right? Now multiple backup per day and up to 30 days for operational retention. So support for the trusted launch VM and support for VM ultra disk and premium SSD. So this backup would give you that separate disk would be added here and data would be little faster than this normal, right? It is standard. If you take it, it would have the only once a day backup or up to 5 days operational retention. Depends on your requirement production. You can choose it. There's multiple enhanced operations they have given. But now I'm going to take with the standard only. I will not choose for this enhanced one for the lab purpose. And the policy, you have the default one, right? And this policy, what is that says here? You can schedule the backup of the policies as well as your retention period can be changed. You see, backup policies specify the frequency, right? How many per day once or weekly once and a time, which items will be backed up and how long backup copies are retained. So it will be, if you want to do the some separate policy also depends on your requirement, you can create it this new policy. You can policy name, you can create it and you can schedule when you want it for the regular backup and retention policy you can also change it how many days you want it to be. Default you have the 30 days and depends on requirement you can plan this. And let's keep this default one for the retention policy and all, and I would be going to take for the full backup. Okay, so it is selecting for the daily and what's happening here, it is taking for the daily at 2 p.m. UTC, but when you enable the backup it won't take directly backup. You have to run the backup or you need to start the backup, right? It's only simple. You after recovery service vault, anything you're going to take a backup, you just choose for what you needed and accordingly you need to select it. And now after scroll down, right? You see this, the number of virtual machines you want to take a backup, which machine you want to take. When you click on add, you would be able to see this your VM1 and say click OK. Right? And now you see this, we were discussing right here. There is a including failover disk. You see this and disk also. The options are there. So it's by default since I have only one disk which is C drive. If you have other drive, right, it will tell you that is this disk also is going to take a backup. You see selective disk backup. Options allow you to include or exclude. See this? If you have another drive here, it would give you that is an options to checkbox enable and uncheck that. You ask someone, right, question that is in, do I need to select for the disk drive for whichever we are needed or not needed?
Yes.
You have this option selective disk backup options to allow you to include or exclude, right? Execution exclusion is not supported for since we have the only C drive. OS disk is not. OS disk always it is mandate to be enabled. OS disk exclusion is not supported. If you try to uncheck that, it won't. It's no point, right? When you're taking a VM backup, if you're excluding this OS drive, no point here. right? You just enable the backup now. So I'm taking backup now of the VM. This backup of VM is going to creating the backup, but not starting the backup yet, right? So it would give you that backup status. We will see this backup has been created, but we must go to that job items. Then we need to enable the backup. After enabling the backup, depend on the size of the VM, depend on the size of the space, the time would be differ. The backend lot of process going to happening, right? Whatever we think about, okay, this is we started the backup and it will take immediately. No, backend it's taking lot of process, taking a snapshot, right? And again you are selecting the redundancy that is taken care to keep the data to the another location. All process going to happening, everything it will be done, then you would be able to see that this is completed successfully. Okay, you see this is just enable the backup, it is not yet started the backup. You can scroll down now, backup items. You see the backup item count in this virtual machine. Click OK here, and you see this warning initial backup pending here. So now you can double click this. Okay. Now the last backup status is still pending, and what you need to do, just backup now. And retention backup till it was showing you 1 month, right? Today is 17th of November and it is taking 1 month exactly, but I don't want to keep 1 month. Let's keep just to tomorrow only. Click OK. Now it is processing backup. Now triggering the backup. Now this process, it would take time, depends on your VM drive size and what inside the VM you have deployed applications and other software install. Overall, depending on the size, it would take it. Time differ.
So while it's taking the backup, we can still use the VM
Yeah, you can use the VM.
without any
No, no
latency or
worries.
issue.
Yeah, yeah, you can use it. We have already logged in. You can see this. You already logged in, and you can do things. But it is taking a backup. Whatever the last written in this backup, you would be in whatever the last written in the data, you would be taking the backup. In a traditional method, what is happening here? If some of the transaction happening and you are processing, that's what this all backup process is not going to run in a during business hours. Yes or no? You might have observed, right? This is
Yes.
huge data size and a huge transaction network bandwidth it would be utilizing, and it's also some impact happened due to the huge data plus network bandwidth utilization during operation during business operations time, and because of that it is impacted also, right? I have observed 2-3 use cases, 2-3 issues which I had involved, that is because of that already that in that server uh, multiple resource would be multiple resources are installed on that machine, database also running and backup was also running, some other domain controller running, right? So in because of the change activity, emergency change activity, they start the backup immediately, the system state backup, and that is went to the that was virtual machine ESX box. So the VM went down due to that, system state backup, because that network bandwidth and network network interface card, that was not enough capable to handle that speed. So due to that, the network, VM went down. Actually, it was not successfully backup. And when we are analyzing that, analyzing that is why the server went down, and why the backup is failed. That was a VM. That VM network NIC interface card was, connected with the older versions. You might have heard about in ESXi box where we are creating the VM. The network interface card was selected for the late older versions, which was, now we deleted that interface card and recreated with the latest version ESXi, and recreated and last started with rebackup, then it works. So that is what these kind of backups would be in out of business hours, and a plan for the schedule when you want it. And just for the testing, again, as I said, if you see this, if you go to the backup, and you would be able to see the complete process here. Go to the backup items here.
Mainly the problem occurs when we are keeping the monitoring logs, because we have to keep the differential and incremental logs over there. So we need to back up for like 15 minutes and 30 minutes
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
So
correct.
in that case, the IO consumed a lot
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
choked the bandwidth. That's why we also keep doing this backup in night shift, means off
Night
business
shift.
hours
Yeah.
for differential, and full in weekends most probably.
All right, right, exactly. But this is always, huge. Now we have the VM only one drive and just for testing purpose. But when you talk about the process and production point of view, right, it is little tricky, and we have to very careful. We need to look into this.
And here we don't have virtual drive, we have physical like servers for this purpose only,
Right, right, correct,
because
agreed.
virtual can't handle it.
Correct, correct. Virtual, always it is. We have to have enough resource for them. If it's a little, messing up that, it will not going to take that.
Means two servers for TSM service only,
Okay. You
physical.
use for TS. Okay. Dual storage manager you are
Yes,
using.
yes,
Okay. 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 Good. Separator backup is handling by
yes,
TS.
absolutely. For two physical servers provided to that
Okay.
monitoring. Because
Good.
for audit purpose, we have to keep like for 1 to 2 years of data for
Yes. Yes.
each clicks and movement, everything.
Correct. You see, you have the alert and you have the job as well. We have enabled the backup, and see this, click on the view jobs. You would be able to see this process. See this, right? Configuration part is already done. It is shows completed with the date and time. But if you see this in progress, but actually background, what is the process happening? You see the click on view details. You see this all your snapshot. You see, as I told you, right, the process is going to taking for the snapshot. You know that what is the meaning of snapshot already. So whatever you have done changes in the previous, and everything is going to take a backup to this, as a process of backing up is ultimately get taking as a snapshot. That's it, right? So where we would be able to see this entire process is completed or not. It started already 6 minutes 13 seconds, and it will depends on your size, depends on the network bandwidth. It would defer the timing. So you need to go back here, backup items, virtual machine. You have taken the backup, and you just click on this option, view detail. You would be able to see these jobs. You should keep an eyes in these jobs. Click on the jobs here. You would be able to see this process, right? And you would be also getting some percentage, is how much percentage completed. You would be able to see this. You might have see this some percentage also here. You want to stop backup, you can stop backup now. That is also be possible. And some alert, something informations you wanted to see, that is also be, it is triggered here of this backup. So let's process this meanwhile few minutes. Okay. Meanwhile, what we need to do, we will talk about the I have on-prem data as well. Okay. Take my this on-prem data, and this on-prem data wanted to be, this is actually little tricky and we need to handle it to manage our backup. So far we discussed about the backup for where your backup is running on Azure, and we selected for the file share and we selected for the VM. Both resources are running on Azure, but you have seen that is in another backup